Hi, Charles SirBookSage here with a Top 5 Wednesday, and today it is books I didn't get to in 2017. Number 5 on my list is actually a series. I went into 2017 with one of my big reading goals for the year was to finally finish reading Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time series. This is the first one here of 14 books. This is The Eye of the World, and I have read the first 6 books. I started reading them when book 6 or 7, I think maybe book 7 had just been published. And I read the first 6 books then, but because I knew there were so many more to go, I stopped. And I was going to wait for the series to finish before I continued. And it's since finished, maybe a year or two ago, a couple of years ago. And I went into 2017 intending to finally finish reading that series, which of course requires rereading from the beginning because it had been many, many years since I'd read the first 6 books. And I made it through 5.5 of the books. And not out of any dislike or anything else. It was just the way life goes and reading goes. So I am determined this year to finally, well, I don't know if I'll finish the whole series this year, but I'm definitely going to make a lot of headway this year. Because there is a Wheel of Time read-along that started in January this month. And it's going to go a book a month. I guess essentially for 14 months. So it's going to run from January of 2018 through the end of February 2019, unless they include the sort of prologue book, and then maybe that'll go to March. So I plan on, at the very least, if not finishing all 14 books plus the prologue, I will expect to be at least by book 11 or 12 by the end of the year. Number 4 on my list is another big epic fantasy series I had intended to finally finishing last year as well. And it is one of my absolute all-time favorites. I've mentioned it in a few videos, and that's the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant by Stephen R. Donaldson. In the late 70s, the Thomas Covenant Trilogy was released, the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, Lord Foulsbane, the Earth War, and The Power That Preserves. And then a couple of years later, the second Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, a second trilogy, was released. And that was The Wounded Land, The One Tree, and White Gold Wielder. And that's where the story ended. And then many, many decades later, only in the last decade or so, I guess the last 10 years, the last 5 years or so, Stephen R. Donaldson finally returned to this story, and he wrote the final set, the final Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. And it's a 4-book series. So I had intended to reread the first 6 books and then finally read those last 4 books. And I never got around to that at all. But that's another big goal of mine in 2018. I actually plan on doing that in the first half of this year so that when the Wheel of Time read-along catches up to where I'm at, which will be around book 6, I'll be able to then join in the Wheel of Time read-along as the rest of the year plays. So really excited for that. Disappointed that I didn't get to them, but again, it's just that's how life works. Number 3 is a book I was going to read for Nonfiction November. It was actually one of my main books, but I decided at 11:59 and 45 seconds on Halloween night to do NaNoWriMo. So this book got bumped. I never got to it. And it's probably going to be the first thing I'm putting on my Nonfiction November TBR for this coming 2018. And that is the John Adams biography by David McCullough. So I am determined to read this thing. And so this November, hopefully I'll do it. But I was happy to do NaNoWriMo. I'm really super glad I did. I got a lot of writing done, particularly something I've been working on developing. So that's a sacrifice well made. But I had every intention before doing NaNoWriMo to read this book. So hopefully this coming November. Number 2 is a series I've learned about from BookTube. There's a few different series that have just, for some reason, you hear about something and it instantly intrigues you. And even though there may not be any particular reason why, just the way our brains work, I suppose. The Shades of Magic series, which the first 2 books are here, the white and red binders there, are one of them. I've read A Darker Shade of Magic this year, though, and I'll be reading books 2 and 3 in March. But this is another series that really intrigued me almost as much as The Shades of Magic. But my local Barnes & Noble apparently doesn't carry it at all, which is kind of strange. and that is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. And I don't know why this intrigues me, but for some reason it does. I love ravens. Just when I see the word raven on a cover, it's an instant attention grabber for me. It always has been. Ravens are fascinating birds, and that name just instantly appeals to me. So, but I did not get around to it. Half of the reason was they just weren't in the stores. And number one is the set of books I bought for myself for my birthday back in August, just about a month before I stumbled across BookTube. And that is the Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. And this is my first goal to read for 2018 I'm doing trilogies this month. I'll link my full January TBR up here. I'm tackling this one right away. I've already read book one. It took me about the first 6 days of the month. And I'm about a third of the way through book two. This is absolutely brilliant. And I'm sorry I didn't get to it sooner, but this is just such a great way to kick off a new year of reading. I'd like to know what your top 5 reads are that you didn't get to in 2017, and if you have plans on getting to them in 2018, or you've just given up hope that you're ever going to read them. Hit me up in the comments, let me know, like and subscribe. I'm Charles, this is SirBookSage. Happy reading.